This is NewsHour coming to you live from the BBC's studios in central London. President Trump famously fell in love with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-Un, cultivating a personal relationship as he tried and failed to persuade Kim to give up his nuclear weapons. But in the dying days of the Trump presidency, there's no love lost between the two men and certainly not between the two countries. Kim Jong-un has refrained from commenting on the invasion of the capital by pro-Trump supporters, but he has described the US as his country's biggest enemy and said he didn't expect Washington to change its policy towards Pyongyang, whoever is president. He was speaking at a rare congress of the ruling Korean Workers' Party, at which he admitted earlier in the week the failure of the country's 5-year economic plan. I've been speaking to Chad Carroll, CEO of the Seoul-based Korea Risk Group and nknews.org. He began by giving me more on Kim's latest pledge to expand North Korea's nuclear arsenal.
It's a Congress plan that we've seen come out today with these details. There's a lot in here that's going to be very worrying for proponents of denuclearization diplomacy. It more or less is shutting the door on any prospect of a negotiated denuclearization. And, it raises the specter of more nuclear testing, more ICBM testing. The key thing is, where is the money going to come to finance all of this? And the DPRK, North Korean economy, is in a very bad state right now.
This outburst from Kim Jong-un occurring at a time of the transition from the Trump to the Biden presidency.
Yeah, this has been scheduled, though, for some months now, since August. They decided to pick early January for their Congress. We don't know why, but it does seem that there is a message here for the new White House, which is that if you want to talk to us, you should only expect a discussion that will lead to some kind of constraints on our existing nuclear program, not denuclearization, and only constraints if the US is willing to provide very significant concessions unilaterally to North Korea. That's the message that they're telegraphing through this Congress report today.
But at the same time, Kim Jong-un has this week been extraordinarily frank about the state of the country's economy, has he not?
Yes, we've seen a lot of introspection and reflection at this Congress about the poor performance of the economy. Back in 2016, they set out a 5-year economic plan, and they've been quite blunt about how it's really failed. However, a large part of the blame is being accorded to things outside of the ruling party's control, such as bad weather, COVID-19, sanctions, and so on. And yet, if you rewind back to the last Congress in 2016, when they were reviewing economic performance of the prior several decades, it was a similar message. And so we're now seeing a new economic plan being devised, but there is frankly very little feeling amongst my team of analysts that this is going to really lead to any fundamental improvement in the North Korean economy.
And the consequences of that parlous economy in North Korea are acute food shortages, as I understand.
Yeah, that's right. We've been contacting our sources in Pyongyang on a regular basis. And one of the things that's become aware over the last several months is that due to the COVID-19 restrictions, which are fundamentally a total closure of the border, there has been almost no imported food going into North Korea. And just last week on Wednesday, I was talking to people in the capital who said that cooking oil, sugar, toothpaste, all impossible to get, and prices for domestically sourced fruit and vegetables really soaring 5-6 times the norm. And so, yeah, it's a pretty bad, dire outlook because of the COVID epidemic. There's literally no relief valve on the horizon for these mounting shortages. I should say, though, it's not an overall food shortage. It's just a shortage of anything requiring imported inputs.
Is North Korea therefore in any position, as Kim Jong-un has pledged, to expand its nuclear weapons arsenal and military capabilities? A nuclear submarine is on the list as well?
Yeah, I think this is a really, really important question because by doing so, by investing resources in this area, it will come at significant cost to the rest of the economy. And that's been fine so far because, believe it or not, North Korea's economy grew, relatively speaking, quite well in the first few years of Kim Jong-un's rule. However, with the current sanctions framework, COVID-19, etc., there doesn't seem to be any prospect of economic growth in any way. And so to reinvest what's probably a very declining financial resource into these special weapons programs, it seems like a risky decision at this point of North Korea's story, because it will mean that even the middle classes in North Korea are going to increasingly have less and less on the table. And that could potentially breed some resentment towards these goals.
And is Kim Jong-un right when he says that he doesn't expect Washington to change its policy towards Pyongyang, whoever is president? Is North Korea there, top of Mr. Biden's in tray?
I'd say a pretty low priority. We've already seen the Biden administration publicize its transition goals. North Korea is not one of them. Biden, I think, is going to be far less interested in the flary diplomacy that Trump was so involved with from 2018 onwards. Given North Korea's growing economic relationship with China, it doesn't actually need a deal that some policymakers in Washington still would hope for.
That was Chadda Carroll, CEO of the Seoul-based Korea Risk Group.